Hello, welcome. Welcome, everyone. If you have your candle, we're going to start with our invocation. And I can also put it in the chat. And this is to call in the sacred container for protection, for holiness. We're entering this cocoon of Kedusha or cocoon of holiness as we come together under this new moon. So I invite you to light your candle and invite in any helping supports that you have, whether it's the angels or a soul on the other side, whether you know or you don't know. Any well and wise ancestors will just call in to widen this sphere of belonging for all of us. And inviting in the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence, below us, above us, within us, and surrounding us. And just breathing as we arrive here, allowing all of ourself to be welcomed and presenced under the dark moon. Inviting in the warm flame into the breath. Activating the center column, which is that light channel that connects us from heaven to earth, from below to above. Opening that through our breath of awareness. And may this session together bring peace and wholeness inside so that we may also affect the peace and wholeness externally, uniting all the parts. So I'll read here our invocation, B'Shem Yechud Kucha Brichu Ushina Techa. In the name of the unification of the Holy Blessed One and the Shekhinah, the feminine divine presence, I open my heart to the oneness that underlies all things. So I really feel like we're just deepening together and knowing that our healing and wholeness comes from a healthy forest. And the more that we realize our roots are all interconnected below the ground, there's that oneness that supports us below and also that offers us abundant life force and healing from below, from above. So we're connecting to both energies above and below. And that brings us right into the month of Cheshvan, which is a month known as Or Hoser, which is the light that comes from below, a returning or reflective light. Last month, we had a lot of downward pouring of energy above. There was a lot of heightened energy and movement from the spiritual world or from the heavens. And now we initiate and arouse the energy from below. So in the Hebrew calendar, there's no holidays. After a busy month of holidays last month, we're coming into a quiet month of stillness. And that allows us to generate our own heat and our own warmth, especially as it gets colder. We have to find it from below, the inspiration, because there's not going to be as much inspiration from above. So some sages in the past have referred to this month as Mar Cheshvan, which means bitter Cheshvan. And I learned from Mitten that bitterness is actually so good for us, bitter herbs and bitter medicines. But this bitterness is also referring to like a downfall. After a big party and you come home to quietude, sometimes there's like the after party blues. I don't know if you get it, but last month was like a party if you celebrated the holidays or even just all the busyness of the beginning of the school year. And then we come to this quiet month where it could feel like a downfall. And there is an energy of this downfall. And there is a feeling that could be bitter as we're coming into our ordinary life, Last month was extraordinary, and now it's like ordinary daily rhythms of life. So there's a mar, a bitterness that we may feel. And part of the work of Cheshvan is exploring how we fall, how we descend. Every month is connected to a Hebrew letter that is like the soul power or that channels divine light into the world, particularly. And the month of Cheshvan is connected to the Nun. The Nun, whether you know Hebrew or not, the Nun stands for Nephilah, falling. What is it like to fall? And there's a wisdom in the fall. There's a wisdom in how we grieve, how we descend, how we become formless. That's also why it's connected to the month of water, because water is formless. Sometimes when we fall, we have to let ourselves become formless and fall to the ground and just grieve and become like water. And so that Nun is allowing ourselves to fall, especially at this beginning period of the month. But there's also a story of the Nun, of how do we rise after the fall. And I wrote this out really quickly, and I'm not good at scribing, but hopefully it's not backwards. But the Nun in Hebrew, this is how you spell Nun, and it includes the fallen Nun, which is the Nun Nakufa, and the rising Nun, the rooted Nun. So just in the name Nun, we have both the fallen and the rising Nun. So the story of Cheshvan is, how do we fall? What is the wisdom in the fall? And how do we get back up and rise again? And you see this final Nun is like rooted. It's like a channel, like the axis mundi, that when we rise after a fall, we become so powerful because we lifted ourself up with our own energy, and we become a channel. We weren't gifted it from below, but we used all of our strength after the grief, after the bitterness, to rise again. And that is the story of the Nun, which is really beautiful. Mitten, how much time do I have?
You have a couple more minutes if
A couple minutes. Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Okay, sounds great. As we'll explore with Mitten more deeply, every Hebrew month is connected to a chush, or a spiritual sense that we activate to heal and to come to wholeness. And if we move through the whole Hebrew calendar, it is so embodied because these chushin are senses and pathways we get to connect to the divine with. And we'll explore with Mitten more this idea of sacred sense and smell, which helps us integrate and helps us restore. So why are we inviting in scent in this month? Because in the month of Cheshvan, the biblical narrative, whether you believe it or not, this story is that in Cheshvan, Noah entered the ark, the Teva, after the great flood. Again, the element of water, which has both positive, immense side, and water also has destructive, disturbing side. And the flood happened in Cheshvan, and Noah entered the Teva, the ark. Actually, this week's Parsha, or Torah portion, is also Noah. And what does it mean to create an ark when the world is turbulent, when there's a flood? How do we create our inner arks of peace and safety and stability? And that's what we're going to move into with Mitten's embodiment. Is always with Mitten, we always come into an ark first of trust and safety. And once we can build an ark, then the floods of the world and the turbulence, and this is this month of Cheshvan is a month of transitions. It doesn't knock us over like the Nun. It doesn't knock us over, but it rather sways us back to our equilibrium. So we're coming into these arcs to restore and let the turbulence sway us back to center and not knock us over. So part of creating the arc, the teva, is through scent, through smell. It helps us integrate. And in that arc, we can integrate all the light and energy that we received in Tishrei, because clearly moving through all those holidays and all those stages is too much to integrate all at once. It was a fast journey through so much. This is a whole quiet month of integration where now that we're in the arcs, we get to slowly and subtly let any of those lights or inspiration become absorbed in the body. And a lot of that comes through scent. So we'll talk about more in the full moon gather. This is also the month of Hishtavus, of coming into our equanimity, not letting anything in the world topple us down, but rather living from this inner arc and widening this peaceful space to integrate, restore, and receive. So I'll pass it to Mitten, and so much more to explore on Cheshvan, and happy to keep that conversation open also through the WhatsApp, and any questions you have, I'm also available for that. But one last thing about Cheshvan, because I started with Mar, which is bitter Cheshvan, but if we create healthy arcs, if you flip the word Mar in Hebrew, you get Ram Cheshvan, which is exalted Cheshvan. So ideally, this month is even more exalted than Tishrei, than last month. If we really use it as an integration period, it becomes a high, lofty, holy month, not just a bitter month. So we're flipping that around to a Ram Cheshvan.
Thank you, love. Thank you. And